Hello, everyone. Welcome to our requirement management class. A very warm welcome to each one of you. So, in today's requirement class, what are we going to learn? We are going to learn about different types of requirements and how exactly requirements are managed in the project. We'll also learn the difference between BRD, SRS, and FRD. There's a whole bit of confusion around these documents, what goes into these documents. So, we will learn that also. Okay. So let's quickly get started. What exactly is a requirement? Now, a requirement, as I say, a requirement is different from a business need. A business need is a problem that we are solving for our customer, whereas a requirement is a capability that a system should adhere to. Okay. So each of the features there on any of the portals that you see, Amazon website, if you go to the Amazon website and you see those features of search engine, login, registration, all of those are requirements. So features of the product and their requirements. Okay, so that's what a requirement is. And for us as business analysts to elicit requirements from the business becomes challenging because business always gives us requirements in at a very high level. Okay, so business requirements are high level goal statements which cannot be understood by your technical team. And that's the reason your technical team is not able to comprehend what the business is talking about, what exactly they need. Okay, so both of these parties talk two different languages, and that's the reason BA is required to translate that information. Okay, that's what we do. We take a business information and we convert it into functional or technical requirements that can be understood by our technical team. Okay, so I will walk you through what is a business requirement, and then we'll see samples of a business requirement. We'll see samples of functional, non-functional requirements so that you can better understand this concept. And we'll also run a quiz where you will be able to identify which category this requirement falls under. Let me quickly share my screen. Now, what are the different types of requirements? These are some of the different types of requirements that we will see in a project. Business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, which are further broken down as functional requirements and non-functional requirements, and then we have the transition requirements. Okay. Now, when we talk about business requirement, each one of you know that those are high-level goal statements. Okay. But how does a business requirement actually look like? Let me show you some examples of those. Take a look at these examples that are there in the screen. System shall send emails to all managers so that MIS reports can be generated on a timely basis. User needs to send an application for loans so that his credit worthiness can be checked by the loan department. Okay. Now, if you look at this first example, system shall send emails to all managers so that MIS reports can be generated on a timely basis. Is this a clear requirement? Type CL if you feel that it's a clear requirement. Type UC if you feel it's unclear, not clear. What do you feel? The first example. Does the requirement have all the information that is required by the technical team to develop this particular feature? Type CL if you feel it's totally clear, or UC if you feel that's unclear. It needs more clarity. Okay, I want responses in the chat window, guys. I want you to analyze these examples that are coming on the screen so that you understand the concepts. Otherwise, I can just tell you that business requirements are high-level goal statements. If I show you some examples, it makes sense to you. Okay, this is how requirements come from business. Okay, so whether you feel clear or unclear, just type your response. It's okay if you're wrong. I will correct you. Yes, it's relatively unclear because when you look at the first requirement, system shall send emails to all managers. There are a lot of questions that come to your mind. Each one of you can type in the questions that are coming to your mind. So when I look into this requirement, shall send emails to all managers, the first question that comes to me is, what are these emails? Exactly. What are these emails going to the managers? Now, the end goal of the customer, guys, is very clear that they want to generate some MIS reports. So business requirements always have a goal or objective towards the end. So we understand that they want currently the MIS reports are not getting generated on a timely basis. They want to they want to solve that issue. That's their goal. They want to generate it on a timely basis. But when I look at the capability that they are expecting, the feature that they are expecting, emails, what are these emails? Are they email reminders, or some updates that has to go to the managers, some notifications that should go to the managers? What are these emails? I do not know. When I look at the next word, managers, who are these managers that we are talking about? In an organization, there are so many manager levels. Which level of managers are we talking about? That when we say all managers, does it mean that all levels of managers should be sent this email? There's no clarity on that. Uh, Then, what should be the content, the actual content of that email that also should be given by your client? Will the email contain any attachment? We need to know that. Okay. We also need to know the frequency, right? When exactly do you want these emails to go every week, or twice a week? On which days, on which times? You need to ask that to your customer. Your customer will define all this. Okay. Also, when we talk about managers, even if they give us a list of managers to whom emails should go out, there is there is a possibility that this list will not be updated on a regular basis, right? Managers move across departments. So, what if the manager has moved out of the organization or out of the department, or he has taken up a different role? So, how will we look into that particular scenario? Okay. So, this list of managers, is it going to be supplied to you by the customer? And if they are going to give you a list, how will they ensure that the list is constantly updated as per changes that's happening on the organization front? Isn't it? Is this an eye opener, guys? Are you getting the point? So many questions that come to your mind when you look into this requirement, isn't it? If you, as a BA, just take this ballpark requirement without asking any questions, and whatever manager list is given to you, you just fire a email to all that manager list. Later on, you'll realize that the entire functionality has been implemented in a very wrong way. That means inadequate analysis has been done. Okay. As a business analyst, we have to spend quite a bit of time analyzing each and every business requirements that's sent by our customer. And for that, we need to have good analytical thinking. Everyone clear on this, guys? Were you able to, if you are clear, type CL, guys? Type CL if you are very clear on this. Look at the second business requirement. Users need to send an application for loans. Users need to send applications for the loan so that credit worthiness of that user can be checked. So credit worthiness, that's the end goal. But application, when we talk about application, what exactly are the details that application should contain? No information about that. Can everyone apply for loans? That's also, it's not there. And what type of loans are we talking about? Because there are so many different types of loans, right? So this is what happened. This is a high level requirements that we get from our customer. Okay. And we as a business analyst, if we do not break it down into functional requirements, our technical team will not be able to implement it. Then the next set of requirements, obviously, is the stakeholder requirements. Now, what are stakeholder requirements? Simply put, as the name suggests, stakeholder requirements are requirements that we get from different stakeholders. Okay, so in a project, there will be multiple stakeholders working with you. Multiple departments might be working with you, and they might be giving their own set of requirements. Those requirements coming from each and every business unit, each and every business user are called as stakeholder requirements. Now, the next category, functional requirements. Functional requirements simply mean that a complete functional requirement should specify exactly what the system should do. Okay. So in functional requirements are in fact the most detailed type of requirement that you'll ever find. So it will give you complete clarity about what information should be included and how the system should behave and all of that. Complete clarity on the system behavior as well as the data that has to be captured, the data that has to be saved by the system. So those are functional requirements. Functional requirements always detail out the functional flow. Okay, how from one screen to the other screen the user navigates. So the entire flow along with the data and the behavior is very clearly listed in a functional requirement. Non-functional requirements, on the other hand, are also called as quality attributes of a system, which means they capture some of the very, very important characteristics of an application, which is the performance criteria, the security, compatibility in terms of browser compatibility, device compatibility, scalability, response time, performance, availability, data integrity. All of these are non-functional requirements. Now, several times I've seen that beginner BAs, when they are collecting requirements, when they convert the business requirements into functional requirements, they miss out the non-functional requirements. This later on leads to a lot of rework in the project. They feel that non-functional requirements are not that significant, and they make assumptions in that. Like in one particular project, we had made an assumption that we were developing a portal for our customer, and we thought the portal should be, we made the portal compatible in Chrome browser. Okay, and we felt, okay, majority of the users nowadays are using Chrome. So yes, Chrome is a go-to browser. So there's nothing to ask the client, nothing to get validation from the client. And we went ahead with Chrome browser. The entire portal was developed, and our testing team spent several weeks testing the entire website on the Chrome browser. All the performance testing, security testing, everything was done. And then when we went live, when we put it in production, the website went live. There came a whole bunch of issues. Users started reporting issues saying that the website looks totally broken. The website is not at all aligned and they can't read anything on the website. And then when we went and dug further to understand what was causing this issue, we figured out those bunch of users were using Edge as a browser. Edge. So this is a classic example where you make assumptions as a business analyst that browser is Chrome, and then you realize the end users are using some other browser. Sometimes we make assumptions for devices that will be used by your business users and make it compatible with one or two devices. The rest of the devices, the web application looks completely broken. So all the security, performance requirements, compatibility requirements, scalability, everything has to be validated and confirmed with the business users. Remember that. Now, the last set of requirements, which is called the transition requirements. Now, what is transition requirements? Transition requirements typically mean these are requirements required to transition from the current state to the future state. Okay. So if your customer is already having an application, maybe that application is a legacy application, he might have built it 10 years ago and it's now not serving the purpose. So he wants to get rid of that application, make a new one using a new technology, which is much more faster and giving much more enhanced features. That's the reason he must have called you as an IT vendor. Now, while he's developing, while he's working with you to develop a new sophisticated application, the data that's lying in his legacy system is very precious. That's golden data. Okay, we can't throw away the data. Data about his customer, data about his previous sales, his leads, all of that is golden data. So we can't say just because a new system is built, let's throw away the old data and let's start afresh. So what happens is when the client is planning to move to a new system, new application, the data from the old system has to be migrated into the new system. Okay, and we have to help them migrate that. Okay, so it's not just essential for us to build that new application and give them, but also very much required for us to help them with the migration. Otherwise, when they start using the new application will be completely blank. The database is completely blank and there's nothing they can refer to. There are no reports that they can see because there is no data in the database. So we need to migrate the old data. And that's what transition requirements are all about. So in transition requirement, we cover data migration, data cleansing, all of that is part of transition requirements. I had played a very big role in one data migration project where we had to transition several thousands of records, 10,000, over 10,000 records from the old system to the new system. Okay, and we had to write business rules to ensure that the migration works properly. So, as a business analyst, what will be your role? Your role will be to understand if the customer has any data cleansing requirements during migration, how the data. So, you need to understand the source and the destination first, and you need to do a data mapping exercise so that you can map the data, understand the format of the data on the source, and then understand the format of the data that the destination tables have, the schema of those two entities, and then you need to get into a meeting with the customer to understand if he has any specific data cleansing requirements. Data cleansing in the sense, many times when we are migrating data from the old system, there are a lot of there's a lot of bad data in the older system. So in the project that we worked on, also there was a lot of old data, bad data. When I say bad data, what does that mean? Data that is missing some key identifiers. Okay, maybe in the old legacy system, they did not have much validations to control the flow of data. Some of the fields were left blank by the person who was entering the data, and those fields were very crucial fields. Okay. So we work with the customer to identify discrepancies in the data, and we highlight those discrepancies and check with the client, what do you want to do about that? Do you want to eliminate these records, or do you want to modify those records? Do you want to add some dummy IDs over there? So as a business analyst, you can give several suggestions on how you can improve the quality of data. So before the old data is moved into the new data, we need to do this data cleansing activity. Otherwise, the destination, that means a new application, will also have the old bad data. So when you're creating something new, you wouldn't like bad data to come and reside in it, right? So it's essential for us to convert that bad data into good data that makes sense, that can be utilized in reports and dashboards. So transition requirements is a whole big chapter in itself. a bigger topic in itself, which we will cover in one of the coming sessions. But to give you, to explain you in a nutshell, uh, this is what a functional BA does when he or she is capturing transition requirements. Understand, transition requirements has no technicalities involved in it. Your technical team will be doing the migration at the end of it. So you don't need to get involved at a code level, but you need to understand the data, data coming from the source, and also the data structure on the destination side. What's the structure created by your technical team in the new database? Okay, and then we need to do a data mapping exercise. So to sum it up about transition requirements, remember this statement. It is always dealing with transition from the current to the future state. Okay. Now I'll show you some of the requirements, some example requirements on the screen. And please participate in this activity and write in the chat window which requirement you feel this, which requirement category it belongs to. Okay, so I'll show you a requirement statement and you have to tell me whether it's a business requirement, functional requirement, non-functional requirement, or transition requirement. Okay, ready? Ready for the quiz? Type yes in the chat box, guys, if you're ready. Great. Let me just bring up the slide. Here. Let me ask you, what's the first requirement type? System downtime shall not exceed 2 hours. What's the first type of requirement? Come on, start typing, guys. Start typing in the chat window. And then I will tell you the answer. Let me just wait for your responses. Great. Some of you are identified very correctly. Okay, so let's see the answer. This is an example of a non-functional requirement. The second one, improve student registration experience. We'll go one by one, guys, so do not jump the gun. Second, improve student registration experience. Okay, this is an example of a business requirement, high-level requirement, right? The third one, now let's go with the third one. The system shall check if students meet prerequisites before enrolling for a course. There is a confusion here, I see. Functional requirements is an example of a functional requirement because here again, we are talking about a business rule that has to be fired, that there are some prerequisites to be checked before before a student enrolls for a course. Okay, so this is a classic example of a business rule. Business rule becomes a part of functional requirement. The next one, system shall store the name, description, price, and prerequisites for a course. Next one, type in. Great. Some of you are getting it very, very correct. Functional, functional requirement. And the last one, let's go with the last one now. All existing paper-based student profiles should be available in the new system. All existing paper-based student profiles should be available in the new system. Good. This is an example of transition requirements. It's an example of transition requirements. And there is one more slide of requirement types coming in. Take a look at this. First one, who will give me an answer for the first one? Increase student registration. Yes. Business requirements. High level goal of the business is to increase student registration on the portal. Second one, system shall not allow students to register for more than one course for the same schedule. System shall not allow students to register for more than one course. Functional. How cool is that? Why? Again, this is an example of business rule. Now, many of you might be thinking, what exactly is a business rule? We'll come to that. Business rules are also a part of functional requirements. Remember that. This is a rule that the system has to check that they're not allowed to register for more than one course that belongs to the same schedule. The next one, third one, the system shall convert 5-digit student ID to 7-digit student ID. What's that? Very good. Some of you have got it. That's really nice. Cool. Good job, guys. So, example of transition requirement. The system shall time out user sessions after they have been inactive for 10 minutes. Let's go with the fourth requirement. Most of you are getting this correct. Yes. Yes, non-functional requirement or NFR. Then the last one, the system shall disable a user ID after 5 failed login attempts. 5 failed login attempts. This again becomes non-functional in nature. Yes. For people who are thinking why this is non-functional in nature, let me tell you, if you read this requirement very carefully, why are we asking the system to disable a user ID after 5 login attempt is because this is a security requirement. This is a security requirement. In order to make the system secure, we have included this feature where a user's ID should be disabled after 5 failed login attempts. Similarly, when you look at the fourth requirement also, it is a security requirement. So requirements that can be classified as security requirement or performance requirement automatically become NFRs, isn't it? Great. Very clear with this exercise, guys. In the upcoming sessions, we'll get some more complex requirements. Okay. Now, when it comes to business rules, let's understand that. we spoke about a couple of requirements that I showed you here. Those were business rules. And I said that it is a functional requirement because it's a business rule. Now, what's a business rule? Some of you who have already done the ECBA certification with us know about this. That's a separate, it's a separate technique included in BA called as business rules analysis. So now business rules, very important to be included in an application so that the application can ensure that data integrity is maintained, as well as the data that's being captured or the system's behavior is helping them comply with certain policies that are there in the organization. Okay. So when you look at business rules, there are two different types of business rules that you will see. Couple of rules which we call in the common language as validations. Those validations are put into the system to ensure data integrity, to ensure that users are not entering any data that comes to their mind. For example, in a form, if you are asking the user to enter his email address, and the user just, instead of entering his email address, he just enters some junk characters, system will highlight, this is not acceptable in this field. You are supposed to enter a proper, authentic email address. That ensures that these kind of bad data, where people are playing around with the system, this kind of bad data doesn't go and sit in the database. Okay, that's one type of validations rules that we have in the system, where we check the data that's coming from the front end is genuine data or not. But besides that, there are certain uh, rules that we include in the application based on the policies, based on the policies of the business. Certain policies, certain compliance regulations, we include certain rules so that the system checks that prior to performing a particular task. For example, when you go and remove money from an ATM, most of the ATMs, there is a limit. There is a limit of withdrawal. Everyone knows about the withdrawal limit that's there in your bank. So banks have a withdrawal limit, right? So it 10K in some banks, 10K per day, and they don't permit you to withdraw more than 10K. That's again a security parameter that's included to ensure that nobody else is playing around with the customer's account. Now, the ATM software that is there, if the ATM software does not have appropriate rules that will check how much the customer is trying to withdraw, uh, then even if I enter an amount that is higher than 10K, it will give it to the customer. It will give that much amount of cash to the customer. So the company that has built the ATM software, they have to build rules, business rules, and these rules will come from the bank, where the bank will say, okay, this is the withdrawal limit, and we as business analysts, we have to document it in an appropriate functional language, so our technical team can do justice to that. Our technical team can build those rules in the application. If these business rules are not included in the application, the system will be quite open for the users to play around with. So the users can do anything. So just imagine if, as a customer of a bank, if the bank just tells you that your withdrawal limit is 10K, um, just by the bank telling you, are you going to adhere by it? There, in one particular day, if you have a necessity of withdrawing more than 10K, you will go and try withdrawing more than 10K. If the system allows you, you will do that most of the days, right? uh, so that's the reason appropriate rules have to be included in the system, so that whatever is the policy of the bank, that's also implemented in the application. It's not, the policies are not supposed to be kept in the books and just told to the customer verbally. If it's just told to you, nobody follows it. So there you'll find different types of business rules. When you work with a loan processing application, as your loan application goes through various stages of the workflow, there will be several business rules that will check the eligibility of the candidate and all other different parameters. So these are rules that run in the background. In the front end, the customer, as a customer, these rules are not visible to us, but in the background, all of these rules are checking whether the customer is performing the correct action or not. Even the when you're trying to withdraw cash, the system checks against your account balance that whatever amount you're trying to withdraw, do you have that much amount? Do you have an amount that's greater than that? Isn't it? So if it's not there, it gives you a message on the screen: insufficient funds. These are all classic examples of business rules. Now, the documents created by a business analyst. We, as business analysts, create a whole bunch of documents. Some of those documents have been listed here. In some projects, we've also prepared a business case, not an all project, but BRD, FRD, SRS, use case documents, UAT test plans, UAT test cases, business flow, process flow documents, use case diagrams, activity diagrams, data flow diagrams, and there's a whole bunch of other diagrams also that we prepared. But very, very important ones I have listed here because these are some of the diagrams, some of the documents you should be thorough with when you are getting into a business analyst role. And let's look at BRD versus FRD. Now, as I said, BRD contains high-level business requirements, and FRD further elaborates those business requirements into detailed functional and non-functional requirements. Okay. Now, FRD and SRS, FRD or SRS, contains functional and non-functional requirements only. They do not offer design solutions, design suggestions, or they list any business issues. It can also contain use cases. If you have done some use case diagrams, you can show it over there. Now, this is slightly done in a different way in different projects. Let me tell you that. In some projects, when you get into a project, the BRD is given to you by the customer. Okay. So if the customer has given you a full-fledged BRD, then your job will be to convert that BRD into an FRD, which can be consumed by your technical team. But there are some projects when you get into those projects, the customer says that we don't have anybody to create a BRD at our end. We don't have a BA and we don't know how to write a business requirement document. So then as a business analyst, you have to create the BRD. So BRD document either can come from the customer or you as a business analyst might be creating the BRD. Then in this case, in the second scenario, your responsibility is to create the BRD and then convert the BRD into FRD also. Now, certain projects, like I said, different projects work in a different fashion. I've seen in certain projects, they follow a structure where BRD, they write BRD and then they write an SRS and then they write an FRD. Okay. I personally have not been able to figure out why they do that, because a BRD can be easily converted into FRD and that's an easy way of going about it. But they probably that's a practice that's followed in that organization where they also need to maintain a document called as SRS separately. Okay. So in that case, what is included in SRS? So BRD, we all know it contains high-level goal statements. The SRS contains actually the functional modules that will be a part of the solution. That is SRS. That means, for example, if you talk, let's say you're building the Amazon website. Okay. So the SRS document will list out, okay, the portal will contain the following modules: uh, search engine, the login screen, the registration screen, then the shopping cart, okay, the checkout, all of that, all the different things. The SRS will list down those modules which with a small description of those modules. Okay, so it will not be a very detailed description, because SRS contains only the functional module details. Now, when that SRS is converted into an FRD will contain very detailed requirements of each and every module. Okay. So, for example, if you take the first module, search engine, the BA who's writing the FRD has to go in depth and go in depth and write about how the search engine will function, what will be retrieved by the search engine, what different parameters can be entered by the user, what filters can be applied, sorting, filtering, and how the product details will be fetched. Everything will be included in that FRD. So that's the reason one particular functional module itself in the FRD can span across several pages. Depends upon how big that module is. Okay. So these are some of the classic differences between BRD, SRS, and FRD. Okay. Now, when we're talking about BRD, FRD, we are typically talking about waterfall approach, right? Waterfall approach we're talking about. Now, what happens in Agile? Nowadays, maximum projects we see in the Agile approach. So if you're working in a Scrum project, your focus will be more on epics and user stories. So in Scrum projects, the requirements that we used to write in the traditional waterfall methods, those requirements are written in a slightly different format in the user story format. Okay. That's the reason in Scrum projects, we don't find BRD, FRD. Okay. So you will, as a business analyst, you will be directly writing these user stories in the requirement management tool, whichever requirement management tool or project management tool that your company is using. Like one of the project management tool which is widely used is Jira. So you will be writing it directly over there, and you have to get it validated with the product owner. So as a business analyst, your role will be to break down epics into user stories. Your PO will give you the high level epics, but as a business analyst, you will break down it into user stories. Now there is also a concept of hybrid projects. What happens in hybrid projects? In hybrid projects means it's a combination of waterfall and agile both. Okay, which means the first few phases in the project might be executed in the waterfall mode. Okay, that means in those projects we will have BRD, FRD done, where the requirements are completely nailed down and signed off by the customer. Now, the customer might have said that once requirements are nailed down, the delivery of the product should happen in the agile format. Okay. So that's when the delivery starts. We have sprints. And when the sprints start, obviously, as a BA, you have to start breaking down those requirements into user stories. So in hybrid projects, you might see a combination of both documents. BRD, FRD is also there, and the user epics and user stories are also there. So you will see a combination of both. So that's also possible, and that's when the confusion arises. But be very clear on this. Um, as a business analyst, all this documentation that I told you, that becomes a part of your responsibility. Uh, but depending upon the project scenario, couple of documents might be given to you by the customer. Then you start off from there. You have a starting point. If no documents are given, a high level scope document might be given by the customer. Look at the scope document and start writing your BRD. That will be a starting point. Yeah, like I mentioned, okay, I see a question on SRS. SRS, like I mentioned, will just contain a mention of the functional modules. what functional modules are a part of the solution. Whereas FRD will contain very detailed requirements, very detailed explanation of each of those functional modules. So FRD will further elaborate on the SRS. That's how it is. But however, as a business analyst, I have never found the need of having an intermediate document like an SRS. I always convert a BRD directly into FRD. But there is a practice in some of the projects, some of the organizations to do that. And that's the reason we talk about that. Full form of SRS is the System Requirement Specifications. Yes, that's a good point. I think I missed that. So BRD, Business Requirement Document, SRS, System Requirement Specification, FRD is Functional Requirement Document, or you can call it FRS also, Functional Requirement Specifications. Everyone with me so far? Anyone has any questions? You can type in the chat window if you have any questions. You can type in the chat window. While I'll check if the everybody is fine. Okay. So that with that, we come to the end of our requirements session where we learn different types of requirements, and we learned what are the differences between these documents, these hardcore documents that a BA actually prepares. What's the main difference between? In the coming sessions, you'll get more clarity about these requirements, how they can be converted from one format to the other, and how we can maintain quality. So we will have these special classes. We plan to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday every week, where we connect with you for 1 hour. 8 p.m. is the time. So keep a note of that. Keep yourself free at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is a learning hour in our community. So be there at 8 p.m. We will broadcast whether we are having a class or not. We'll broadcast that in the morning itself. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, wait for the notification to come from our side, and be ready to learn. Be ready to learn. Okay. So thank you so much for participating in today's session, and I'll keep you posted about the future sessions that are coming in. But like I said, be very ready to learn about business analysis, understand business analysis before you get into this profession. Very, very important, so that we don't go and create blunder in our projects. Requirements in a project are the heart of a project. If you collect wrong requirements from your customer, you will give the wrong requirements to your technical team, and that directly impacts the product that they're building. So that's the reason I say it's very essential for us to understand what true business analysis is. We are working towards a mission to improve business analysis skills across the globe. And that's the reason we bring in more of these special classes where we can make you understand what is that vital role that you're playing in the organization. Your role in the project is very, very vital, guys. And that's the reason more and more organizations, before hiring business analysts, they are trying to ensure that they're hiring the right candidate. Okay, as in the upcoming sessions, I'll tell you more about the kind of scrutiny organizations are doing before hiring a candidate for a business analyst position, to ensure, so that they ensure that the product they are building for the customer is the right product. Okay, so thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye. God bless you. Good night.